ladies and gentlemen, I am late. And I'd like to say, yes, Big Head is like, that's great of you to show up for your own show. Yes, gonna do that. Had one of those Fred Rogers moments. Normally the way that this show starts, I'm usually, putting on my shoes, putting things on, connecting, as it were, to all the different cables. And, you know, uh, this show is fueled by animations that you don't see, live wires, things that are moving my hands. It's all a puppetry act, basically, is what we're doing here on this show. Nonetheless, as I was getting ready, I started recognizing, hey, I got Joel Freeman, who's going to be coming on here from the Freeman Institute, and I want this show to be exquisite. In fact, I can already time vault this episode as being one of the best episodes that we've ever had, because Joel is coming on, and we're going to talk about the Rosetta Stone. Many of you guys are tuning in to hear him talk about the Rosetta Stone. And I recognize that the guy that I'm looking at on the screen, which is me, is about 10 seconds behind the guy that was there. And so there's this dramatic lag that is going on in the show. And so I'm thinking, okay, can we, turn the camera off, turn it back on, get the lag out of there? It's about 1 minute before the show is about to start. We can get this done. On, off, when in doubt, and it has to do with technology, on, off, then on. And so I recognize we're not getting this lag out, not this lag. And so we decided we needed to do, we decided to do what any good self-respecting morning host would do on their show. And that's basically start this dang thing over again. Reboot the computer, which means all of the applications and all the different screens that I had open, we need to go find those. We basically had to build the show over again in 5 minutes. Luckily, I knew where RC Sproul was located. Luckily, I knew where this video was located, because you're asking yourself the question. Hopefully, you're not asking yourself the question. Are you asking yourself this question? Because if you're asking yourself this question, I need to answer it for you. Who is Joel Freeman exactly? I've heard of him before. Rosetta Stone. Wait a minute. You don't have to be that guy that's stuttering and stammering and not knowing what it is that you need to do. Here's Joel Freeman himself talking about the Rosetta Stone. And the comment. This is what you're about to get.
What if we dare to believe in the inherent brilliance deep in the minds of our young people? What if our commitment to their excellence knew no bounds? What if one solitary experience could be the catalyst for untold innovations from millions of inspired minds? What if that awe-inspiring experience is right here, right now? Don't allow one child to miss the Rosetta Stone Traveling Exhibit Experience, curated by the Freeman Institute Foundation. Become part of a world-changing legacy project, empowering generations to become solutionists and equipped to address the greatest challenges. Your action today shapes a future of innovation and problem-solving excellence for tomorrow's leaders. Unlock the future of leadership today with the Rosetta Stone Traveling Exhibit. Join us. Get involved. Dr. Joel Freeman, the visionary founder, eagerly anticipates your questions, ideas, and valuable advice as we embark on this transformative journey. Contact Dr. Joel Freeman. Text the word Rosetta to 410-729-7800.
Serious inquiries only.
To request a personal call.
That means if you want to talk business, that's when you call that number. He is coming to the show today. He'll be here in just a few moments. And because of such, I don't know that we have time to dive into the devotion. So I'm going to do something that I don't normally do. I've already prayed today, people. I've already done the devotion today. I'm going to go ahead and get my tags out of the way, and then we're just going to get straight to, because I told him we had a 9 o'clock start time today, Central Standard Time. I will do this, and then if we have some time at the end, we'll get just a few moments of the devotion because I did want to talk about the atonement. We'll see if that fits in there today. We'll work some Erskine music in. It is the Erskine Music Show, so let's go ahead and get started today. We're getting started a little bit tardy, but I think you guys would rather have um, a host that is not 10 seconds behind what you're actually hearing with your voice. So let's get the show started. Tags out of the way. Joel Freeman is here. He's ready to go, and so we're ready to go. All right, this is me speaking really quickly. You guys know about the fair use clause. I use that all the time. Section 107, Copyright Act of 1976 says I can do it, so I can use source material. All right, moving right along. For those of you who are watching on various platforms, I do so appreciate that. I appreciate the worldwide audience. I appreciate the fact that there's Facebook worldwide people who are here. Big head. Big head, you got to play this one over again. Yep, play it over. All right. I appreciate the fact that there's worldwide people who are watching this from Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Rumble. You guys are awesome. All right, if you haven't already subscribed to the show, then do it. How's that for hallelujah this morning? Let's get through these tags. I kind of like this show format. Just go really quickly through everything in the introduction and just get to the meat. I like that. I like that. Here we go. Breaking news and top story today. Dr. Joel Freeman. Just give us the meat and potatoes, my friend. Just give us the meat and potatoes.
How you doing, young man?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Always great to see you. Always great to hear from you. You've got so many incredible things by way of content that you've created, but you're a man of God. And I do so appreciate that and love that about you, is that our conversations have ranged from, things that you're creating lyrically to things that you're doing, advancing the next generation. And I'm honored to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for your time.
It's great to be here. Thank you very much, Erskin.
You have been a busy traveler. I'm a busy traveler, but you also have been a busy traveler. Where have you been going? Where have you been going? Talk to us a little bit about your schedule.
From Canada, that's a correct pronunciation. But I have traveled over 55 countries around the world in my lifetime. Just turned 70 years of age in July, and it's been quite something. I started a company called the FREEMAN Institute with 7 words as my brand: dealing with people who drive you crazy. Those 7 words have taken me all around the world, working with heads of state and their senior advisors and leaders of multinational corporations, people who work in the education world, and all the rest. It's been a fascinating experience already.
Yes, indeed. And the last time that you were on the show, we were talking about the Black History 365 program. Just a quick update on that. Let us know kind of where that project is at.
Yes, this is the book right here, Black History 365, weighs 5.5 pounds. It is, and we just came out. I didn't bring it with me here at this point. It's the Latin History 365, a book
Okay.
about the same size. I just arrived about 3 days ago. But this project now it's K through 12. This book is 9 through 12, weighs 5.5 pounds, 1,200 QR codes, well over 1,200 pages, and over 2,500
Amazing.
images throughout. We're now in over 400 school districts around the country.
Amazing. And just really quickly, what is the response of people? I mean, last time we were having this discussion, and for those that didn't get a chance to hear that, you can go back in the timestamp and find. I should have put a link up to that, but anyway, we had a discussion about the fact that this is being received by people, and it's comprehensive in its scope.
Yes.
What are you hearing back from people?
We also have 41 songs, 1 song per chapter, that many have said could be the next Hamilton on Broadway. Is that good? So Walter and I put this together, and Walter Milton and myself. He's founder, I'm co-founder. And the response has been phenomenal. And the reason why is because we remain truth-centric. It's a razor's edge. We remained true-centric. We didn't bend the arc toward one political party machine or the other. And also, we remained solutionist. So what are we going to do with this information, and how are we going to apply it in our lives? So no one on the left or the right has been able to, come against it in any way. It's just been amazing.
And that's amazing. I'm obviously in a lot of spiritual circles where there are people who are praying for works like this, praying for kingdom projects like this. I would just call it a kingdom project where Satan and the enemy and all the different disparate groups that are out there will not be able to come against the standard that the Lord raises up. And, that's kind of the terminology of my charismatic friends. However, you have done this not only with the blessing of the Lord and his strength, but you've also done this with a degree of excellence. And I love the fact that you call yourself a solutionist. Unpack that for just a few moments for us. A solutionist.
When we get into the Rosetta Stone project, if we get there, we
We'll
will
get there.
a lot about solutionists. But a solutionist is that basically we deal with uncomfortable topics, and so we walk straight in, run straight toward things like lynching. Should we tear the statues down?
Woo,
Reparations. White
woo.
person fully understand the Black experience in America. Black people in the deadly dance with both American political party machines. Scientific racism. Uncle Tom, 3/5 a human being, and then we have a schema, a process for addressing each one of those aspects, and it has to do with critical thinking, compassionate listening, fact-based, respectful communication, and then finally action-oriented solutionizing. So those four connections to and a schema, a process for connecting with uncomfortable topics, has allowed us to come into a classroom and open up the can of worms, so to speak, and deal with issues straight on, but do it in a way that's less divisive and more healing. And that's been the response we've gotten from around the country. It's just truly amazing.
My man, Joel Freeman, he's bringing receipts, folks. If y'all thought y'all were going to come against him, he said, I got this, and this. What y'all want to do about it? I love it. And that's definitely, we have talked before and exchanged a lot of pleasantries. That's definitely not your attitude. You're not, aggressively in people's face or anything, but I love the research that you guys have put into this. And I liken myself in some ways, although probably a little bit more cantankerous to yourself, in that if there's a difficult problem, instead of running away from that problem, let's run to that problem, because if it's a difficult enough problem or a big enough problem, then everybody's experiencing it and everybody is feeling it to some degree. And the longer we don't deal with it, the more residual conflict it's going to create later.
Yes. It's like the black hair care and beauty industry. In the textbook, we talk about using Annie Malone, who is the one who taught Madam C.J. Walker. Hardly anyone knows about her, really knows about her. And so use her legacy from the top down, the bottom up, to come into to deal with this the whole hair care and beauty industry that's owned by about 90% Asian, and to do it
Yes.
without firing one shot. And there's a whole process that we've developed in the textbook on how to do that. So why wait for the government to rebuild the infrastructures of our cities? Let's use low-hanging fruit, an entrepreneurial model, something that is as recession-proof as gambling, as alcohol, tobacco, and to be able to use a market share of a point at a time, and then to be able to use a lion's share of that money to rebuild the infrastructure of our cities, providing jobs for people in inner cities and everything. So those are the kinds of things that we bat around, try to figure out. And rather than just moaning and complaining about different things, let's come up with something that is in the real world can work.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I have a tendency to go off into my little nerd corner every once in a while. And I've been traveling a lot, which makes me a little bit more nerdy, because I have consistent hours where I'm just spending alone with the Lord and listening to various things. And, I've gotten myself into Alex de Tocqueville's work on democracy, and really trying to unpack what de Tocqueville saw in the American fabric in relationship to economy. And he saw this as being a system in which the market will essentially drive itself when you give people the freedom to pursue their own self-interest. And it's interesting that I feel like a lot of times people have not studied economics, but we will say things like money is the root. Well, obviously money is the root of evil because it's a biblical phrase, but we don't understand how much money is integrally tied to everything that we do. and the ability to get or not have, um, attain certain things comes with some economic incentive or repression. And so when you're talking about using solutions that are geared toward entrepreneurial benefit and entrepreneurial spirit, it does take things out of the hands of lawmakers to some extent, and having to always battle and say, well, if we can get the right lawmakers in place, then they will pursue my own economic interest, instead of saying, well, I'm going to pursue my economic interest and let's get the lawmakers out of the way. It's a totally different way of viewing our responsibility as Americans and in society.
Indeed. I love the way you're talking. I love the way you're thinking.
Because I'm a little bit of a nerd. I like that. So let's get to this Rosetta Stone, because I would imagine that the Black history work, the Latin American work that you guys have done, is a derivative of sort of the touchstone and the cornerstone of um, this Rosetta Stone project.
Yes, Egypt is in Africa, so there's no more than 1 degree of separation between any two things that I find myself doing and being drawn to.
Hmm.
So, for instance, and you've seen this particular booklet, it's called the Rosetta Stone Traveling
Yes.
Exhibit Project. And basically, what I've done is I'm taking this ancient artifact, the Rosetta Stone, and transforming it into a modern metaphor for problem solving and critical thinking. And for those who haven't heard of the Rosetta Stone, it was made in 196 BC under the Ptolemaic Empire in Egypt. That
Hmm.
means the Greeks were ruling Egypt at that time, and Egypt had gone through some ups and downs. The Medo-Persians ruled them for a while. There was a brief revival, Egyptian revival. Alexander the Great came in and conquered Egypt, and then the Romans after that. And so this particular stone, and I have a little a replica of it right here.
Oh, look at that.
This little stone
A
here,
little Rosito.
yeah, it has 3 inscriptions in it. And what's cool about this is that when you realize at the very top, there's the hieroglyphics that was reaching the business class, and that was reaching that whole group of people, and then and the priestly class, and then the middle part, demotic. We get the word democracy comes from the word Greek word demos, and
Oh,
then
look at that.
that was for the common people. And then the Greek, of course, because Alexander the Great had conquered Egypt, that was for the government class. And so you can just see in the languages how they were connecting with all sorts of people. But when this was found unearthed on the west bank of the Nile in 1799 by Napoleonic Egyptian during the Egyptian military campaign by Lieutenant Pierre Bouchard, what happened is that they read the last words in the Greek, and it said the same thing shall be in all 3 inscriptions. And they said, "Oh my goodness, this is going to be lemon squeezy, easy peasy. We're going to be able to crack the code to hieroglyphics because we're looking all around. We're seeing all these obelisks, and we're seeing temples with all kinds of eyes and snakes and suns and moons and all kinds of that stuff. Like they let loose a kindergarten class on the architecture, and but no one could figure it out. And so finally, what happened is that they brought it back to Cairo, and the savants, the intelligentsia that Napoleon brought with him, that were experts in botany and hydrology and architecture and entomology and all kinds of stuff, they looked at it and they said, "We can't figure it out." It took 23 years with people from Sweden and Italy and Germany and France and England and all over the place. So there's a diversity of cultures involved. Long
Hmm.
period of silence, big egos. Whoever solved this puzzle was going to become world famous, and so that in spite of all those problems and challenges, in 23 years, 1822, they cracked the code to hieroglyphics. His name was John Champollion, and that's what then unlocked the secrets of ancient Egypt. So
Hmm.
that story, it's an epic drama that hardly anyone knows about. That story, I think, is a very compelling gateway to then begin to discuss the whole idea of problem solving. How did they go about solving this problem that took 23 years to solve? And so that's kind of, and then of course I'm going to be developing a 5,000 square foot traveling exhibit with 4 zones in it. The
Yeah, I
first
showed that video a little bit earlier.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, I did. I can show
Okay.
it again at the end for those who hadn't already seen it, but yes, it is incredible. Hold on, hold on a second, because you're spitting some names, you're spitting facts, you're bringing receipts to the show today, and that's what I love about when you come on the show. If you thought you were going to say something about what it is that he's, oh, Black history, he gonna speak on behalf of Black, yeah, 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 he is. Latin American history, he gonna speak on behalf of, yeah, yeah, he is. He's like that. In fact, I got to ask you a question. Have you ever been on Jeopardy?
No, I
I
can't.
think
My wife and I watch it every night. She tapes it, and so we watch it in binging, and
you
one
binge
show
watch
after
Jeopardy.
another. But I don't, I can see faces, I can see things, but I just can't come up with it as quickly. I could never get that buzzer going fast enough or remember fast enough.
I
It
don't
takes
know.
so
Maybe you're
long.
selling yourself short there, but for those who are listening to endless hours of Adam de Tocqueville's treatise on democracy, reading George Washington's farewell address, and binge watching Jeopardy, to we nerds who are out there. All right. Continue, sir. We've cracked the code now. And now that that's discovered, I remember reading about that in history, and it's like Rosetta Stone, and it had a picture of it. And, there was some important discovery that was made there, and and then on to the next chapter. What's going to be on the test? I know a lot of people kind of view education in that regard, but what actually did that do, practically speaking, this discovery for learning?
Well, just imagine, and I'll just share this that really kind of grabbed my attention. I was already very interested in the Rosetta Stone, and how I became interested was because I was having a crisis of faith when I was about 20 years of age, about
Okay.
50 years ago.
Tell us
And I
more.
started looking at all the claims and evidences and internal, external evidences and science, archaeology, mathematics, and all the biology, all these different elements, these layers. And every time I bumped into archaeology, I just kept bumping into the Rosetta Stone, and that fascinated me. And then about 20 years ago, I was able to acquire a face of the Rosetta Stone, and then recreated the sides and the rear. Had a stone sculptor, guy that up in Michigan who created that for me, and now they're in museums all around the world. All my replicas, and one was in the museum in the Night at the Museum Part 3 with Robin Williams, the movie on the set. But it's what happened in about 11 years ago. The History
You
Channel.
just you just casually just dropped that out. Night at the Museum, Robin Williams, Part 3. And I was wait, hang on a second. Hang on a second. You're going too fast for us today. we are normal citizens of this globe. Because I just got finished watching Night at the Museum, and I thought this movie is kind of underrated. It's got a lot of
A lot of
cheeky
layers.
kind of monkey humor in it,
Yeah.
but for like history nerds and people who like different eras and periods, they actually kind of put some things in there that are at least a little bit appealing historically speaking. And so you were actually able to play some things in Night at the Museum Part 3
Well,
because
one of my
accuracy matters.
one of my replicas was on the movie set in the Vancouver set, and because I know it's there, I see it about 3 times, but it just goes by quickly. It's very hard for the average watcher or viewer to see it. But yeah, that was something that happened when they called me up. I thought it was a practical joke. That was one of my buddies playing a prank on me. But it's 20th
Good
Century Fox
friends.
calling, and we've looked all around the world for a Rosetta Stone replica. We could create one ourselves, but if we can lease one from you for 6 weeks and then return it to you, is that a good deal? And I said, sure, let's do it. That's how that happened.
You said you better break that bread. How much is this going to be? He's an entrepreneur, people. He's an entrepreneur.
And
All
can I
sorts
get
of
movie
income
credits
streams.
in the back?
Yes. Yes. Keep them rolling. Keep them rolling. Continue. I'm sorry. I
Oh no.
interrupted your discourse there.
So what happened? You interrupt away. It doesn't matter.
It's the
But,
Erskin music show. I will
I,
interrupt.
I tend to get going, and so you have to kind of jump in there and say, okay, unpack that for me. So what happened is that the History Channel did a show about 11 years ago, and it was a show called 101 Objects That Changed the World, and they brought some subject matter experts, some SMEs, a panel of them for a whole year to look at all the objects that changed the world. And guess what? They found that the Bible was number one,
Of
coinage,
course.
money, was number two, and the Rosetta Stone number three. It beat out the wheel. It beat out, computers. It beat out cell phones. It beat out the car. It beat out rocket ships. It, beat out all airplanes, everything. And that's when I said, okay, I thought this was a serious item that I needed to research, but now I must not be taking this seriously enough. And that's what really kind of brought me into turbocharge about the Rosetta Stone project.
What was number 2 on that list again?
Coinage, money.
Ah, okay. It beat out the. Where was the airplane at?
I don't remember. I just locked into those first three, and
Yeah.
and after that, and
You said
I've
if you're
tried.
not winning gold, silver, or bronze, you're not getting on the podium. I
It was
love it.
way down there to maybe 5 or 6. Who
Yeah,
knows?
yeah, yeah. Airplanes, computers, all that nonsense, all social media. It's all just gobbledygook. And so
So
with the I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say. So what I decided to do was I had to create something that was sticky, meaningful, memorable, and so decided to come up with an idea to come up with a 5,000 square foot traveling exhibit that you have already shown a little bit of clip about. But
Hmm.
Zone One is all about the history, Napoleon. I mean, it's just crazy amount of information that it could be the whole exhibit all by itself. And then number two, Zone Two, is all about code cracking, and
Okay.
we have, for instance, the Enigma that was used by Nazi Germans, with Navajo code talkers, Native American Indians, that used smoke signals with blankets and fire to send, hey, the buffalo are coming. Last night, my wife and I were at an Orioles game, and I was watching the third base coach, and he's doing all this, all this kind of stuff, and to the first base runner. And I'm thinking, man, that's another code. He's holding proprietary information away from the other machine, and that's part of this whole Rosetta Stone story.
Uh-huh.
And if someone could crack that code, they could say, "Watch out! First base guy, runner is going to run. He's going to try to steal second because I saw the code." But they
I think the
they
New England Patriots were doing that long before.
So the third zone is all about language and culture. And to get back to one of your original questions, is that if you and I are illiterate, it's going to be very hard for us to get a license to drive. What does that sign say? Going to a restaurant, trying to order off a menu.
Hmm.
Our world is very closed. But once a person becomes literate, and I'm watching our grandkids, 3 and 5. They're learning their numbers, they're learning their ABCs, they're learning how to read a little bit, and it's opening up a world for them. They're going, oh, look at that word. I know what that word says, and that's what understanding ancient times and ancient peoples is. Hieroglyphics unlock the secrets of ancient Egypt. It's like, oh wow, they paid women when they worked. Here's a receipt. Oh wow, that battle happened. That town, existed. That family system was a part of the culture or the royalty of Egypt. Wow, I did not know that. And hieroglyphics is the key that opened up the clues and unlocked those secrets. So the third zone is all about how language and culture, and we're losing, from what I understand, the latest statistics, we're losing one language per every 2 or 3 weeks in this world.
Wow.
And the oldest person dies, and they haven't passed it on to the younger generation. So
Say that
that's
again. One language.
every 2 to 3 weeks, a language is being lost, and that's just just something that think about. And then the fourth zone is I've taken the word Rosetta. So it's 7 letters, Rosetta. And we've done a song about it called The Key, where we have 7 steps to solve pretty much any problem in about 8 to 10 categories. And so the categories like, we have moral, ethical problems, we have financial problems, mechanical, technical problems, interpersonal problems, organizational development problems. And so to have something that's transcendent, a schema, a process, because Erskine, we're living in a time. I mean, we had the Industrial Revolution that changed the skylines of cities around the world. They
Yes.
captured the ability to use steam to be able to move things were much heavier that anyone a human could do, and brought ingenuity, the steam engine, all the rest of it. And that was huge, that one revolution. Now we are faced with three revolutions. And the first revolution is AI. The second revolution is spatial computing. The third revolution is quantum computing. And any one of those three is a game changer for the whole world. But to have three converging at the same time, I look at, you and I grew up in an era where we had to actually read a book. It took 15 years to become an overnight success, all that kind of.
Yeah,
And
sure.
and but for to have these three things happening for this generation, what I'm concerned about, there's many wonderful things that can happen in terms of medicine and science and archaeology, all kinds of different things that can develop around this, understanding different languages and things like that. But my concern is that just like muscles can atrophy after 2 to 3 years, 2 to 3 weeks with no resistance, according to the Cleveland Clinic, the brain can atrophy if there's
Ooh,
no resistance to the brain. And so if someone
ooh.
is sitting there, a 10th grader, and saying, I got a paper due on Friday, I'll just go, just like an addict, I'm going to go to Chat GPT and create that paper for me, or that song, or that book, or that article, or that chapter. And what happens is, I think it can create a generation of young people that will grow up with their something that gnaws away at their conscience, their integrity, and saying, "I did that." No, 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 that was ChatGPT. So it's like an imposter syndrome, a,
Mhm.
a poser mentality can emerge, I think. And so what I want to do is use this whole project, the Rosetta project, Stone project, the Rosetta Universe project, to invite people. You can't force anybody to do anything, but to invite them to use their God-given brains first, and then use technology to take it from A to A plus.
Mhm.
That's my whole desire. And so the R is something that we talk about recognizing the problem. Now, how do we recognize the problem? Well, a lot of people have the ostrich in the head in the sand type of approach. I don't have a problem, but
I'm
I
gonna
think
start
it's
putting these at the
important.
bottom of the screen. Keep talking.
Yeah, I think it's important that we are people that we recognize when there's a problem. And I can't remember the person who said this, but let's say this fist represents a problem. As humans, we're walking toward a problem, or we're in a problem, or we're walking away from a problem. So problems are a part of our lives. In fact, if someone is in business, you are right now solving a problem by having your podcast. You're bringing on guests to talk about music and talk about different things. It helps to educate, encourage, and that is you're solving a problem. When we cease to solve problems, we're out of business. And so
Yes.
recognize another thing of recognizing the
Yes,
problem.
people recognize I'm solving some problems for you that you didn't even know you had.
And another
I'm
part of
creating
recognizing
some problems also.
that's part of it too. But another part of recognizing the problem is, what kind of problem is it, and what's the intensity of the problem? Is it worth my time and my attention? So I've come up with an inventory, or I'm coming up with an inventory that I'm almost there. Is that there's a campfire problem, there's a
Oh,
bonfire problem, or there's a wildfire problem. The
a little
campfire problem.
triage there, and it's a fun triage.
That is, and it allows me to use just three fingers. But in my backyard, if I want to do a campfire, I need to make sure there's no low-hanging branches that can cause a forest fire, and but I prepare for it. So it's like owning a home or owning a car. There's always something, the new roof, or new downspouts, or new this or new that. The dishwasher goes, and so it's like sitting around a campfire. And you sit here, and the smoke starts finding you. You go, oh, I'm going to move over here. And then wait just about 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, and the smoke's going to find you there. You move over here, and the smoke's going to find you there. That's the way it is with campfire problems. It's all a part of life. The
Mhm.
smoke is going to find us. And then the bonfire, we still prepare for a bonfire. It's like building a business, and it's kind of dangerous. It could get big so quickly that it's like, oh wow, how are we going to deal with this? And how are we going to handle that? Well, that's a bonfire problem that is prepared for, but it's not. But it's kind of dangerous, on the edge of danger. And then a
Yep.
wildfire, with a wildfire problem, we need to bring in legal, accounting. Everyone's head is on swivel. We bring all forces to deal with that particular problem, and then freak out later once it's solved. But it's the whole idea of understanding the recognizing that there is a problem, and then recognizing the type of problem, the category of problem, the intensity of the problem, and then also recognizing how to approach a problem. When I was a kid, I became a lifeguard. And one of the things they said is that if you go out to save somebody in the water, you come directly to them, they're going to bring you down with them. because they're
Mm-mm.
thrashing about. But you have to stiff arm them, get around behind them. There's a whole approach to the person with a
Woo,
problem. They're drowning.
man,
And so,
bars. You bringing bars today?
so it requires emotional
Don't drown,
intelligence.
folks.
It's like my wife, she has a problem. She doesn't want me to solve it. She wants me to hug her, and maybe 24, 48 hours later, I say, honey, I was thinking about this, and have you thought about this? Now there's an approach, a timing. So it's we want to train people in regards to recognize the problem. There's timing involved. There's emotional intelligence involved. There's listening involved. Two ears, one mouth. There's a parable there, and all these different things about even approaching once a problem is recognized. And then
Can I
then
go ahead and endorse you for president of the United States? Will you serve in that capacity and solve some problems for us?
no, thank you. And so then the O stands for obtaining information, and that's where reading comes in, understanding. That's where a person is before the problem. They're already trying to build a library of information and understanding and knowing where to go and who to talk with. But it's obtaining information. If you have the luxury of doing that in a wildfire problem, it's going to be very difficult. It's going to be snap. It's a lot of native, a lot of stuff that's within the person is going to come to the forefront at that instant. But obtaining information and then specifying goals. And what are the goals? A person can say, well, I've got I want to become famous, like Jean Champollion, like the people that wanted to crack the code to hieroglyphics, or I want to become wealthy. And I think those two things, those two whys, are for solving a problem are rather shallow, but they do drive people. And so, obtaining information, trying to figure out what that is, because when we understand our why am I wanting to solve this problem? We can then deal with any who, any what, anywhere, any when, anyhow that comes against us, and we're not going to quit in solving that problem because we have developed a why, and that
Yeah.
why is transcendent. That why brings us the energy. When just like fish down at the bottom of the Marianas Trench, they don't have any thicker skin than the fish that are only 10 to 20 feet down beneath the surface of the water. But they have the matching pressure from within that causes them so they don't implode. And so it's not about thin skin, it's about having that matching pressure from within.
Woo!
So specifying goals
And
allows
illustrations.
allows us to become a person that has the pressure from within that keeps us from imploding and dealing with the pressure. And we need pressure from without to keep us from exploding. That's where problems come in. And so specifying goals, I think, is a very important component of understanding the problem and doing a 360, a spherical 360 around it. And then evaluating options, that E, evaluating options is something where we, like when I'm talking with someone with a problem, and a problem might be, you have eustress and distress. Distress is where the problem is causing them to implode. Eustress is causing them to be excited. It's like, oh man, I'm getting married, or I've got $1 billion idea, and they got all these things bouncing around inside of them. And so evaluating options is a very important component on this. It's helping the person to see what's the best of the worst options sometimes. I know that I have developed a process over my life is that I have done periodically an inventory of where my counsel is in demand. And that then informs what books I write. That informs what websites I put up. That informs what kind of blogs I create. So when someone calls me and says, I've got an issue about Black history, or I've got a creative idea, I've got an invention, whatever it might be, I've got a problem with my business partner. What I do then is I send them to, we talk for about 2 to 3 minutes, and I say, by the way, I have a website, truthcentrism.com. It's all about my journey in Black history. I'd like to encourage you to go read that first, and then come back to me, and then we can drill down to the specificity of your situation. Because when we become specific, we get specific, we can become terrific. And so become a person that
Said that a time or two.
yeah, when we get specific, we can become terrific. And
Hmm.
so I don't want to deal with a general thing because I'm going to spend an hour and a half, 2 hours with this person. And I don't know if I'm wasting my time with this person. So if I send them to do a task, something that I've created, they can then come back to us. And I've had 90% of the people don't come back to me. So I saved hours and hours of time with someone that wasn't serious, perhaps, or didn't have the time, or just was kind of, hey, I want to talk to Joel Freeman about this, and so that's been my approach in terms of helping people evaluate the options that they have before them. And
Wow.
then and then we have test solutions. Testing solutions is very important because once we come up with options, now it's like coming to for the cure to cancer, for instance. We're going to go down a lot of blind alleys, and hopefully, every time we go down a blind alley, we're going to learn something from that situation. Like Edison said, I've learned 10,001 ways how not to do it. But each time he learned something. So when he went down that alley, that blind alley where the solution was found, he had learned all from his failures because success is not a good teacher. Failure
Mm.
is the best teacher.
Never take a loss, take a lesson. You can
And
use
so
that later.
I will use that. I've logged that away.
Yes.
Say it again. Take a loss, take a lesson. Right?
Never take a loss, take a lesson.
I like it. I like it. I'm gonna. That's logged away, and
Gave
I'll
that to
give you
Joel
credit the
Freeman.
first three times. And then to take solutions, as we test solutions, that there's different ways to test, and I'm not going to go into all the details of that, but it's just some real world ways. It's like being in a bottle. You can't read the label when you're in a jar, and sometimes just like coming up with a Black History curriculum, but we thought it was pretty cool. But then when people started saying things about the curriculum, now you're getting tests of whether or not this is something that is really scratching where people are itching.
Uh-huh.
And so taking action, different personalities and temperament styles. Some people take action before they think, before they obtain information, before they specify goals, before they test their solutions. So taking action, it's a balance between doing all those things and then taking action. Some person wants to become an entrepreneur, and what they do is they get a brand new computer. They bring in a designer for their office. They do all these things, and 6 months later, they have never taken action. They prepared to take action. Some people are eternal students, and they go to school and they go to school, but they never parlay their degrees into taking action with that information they've learned. And so, taking action, there's a gentle balance there between all the processes prior to and sometimes just saying, okay, I'm going to run on my instincts here. And sometimes people can work through the recognizing problem, the obtaining information, specifying goals, testing solutions, taking action. Sometimes it's almost like a millisecond because of the tremendous amount of wisdom that they've gained over the years. But taking action, I think, is a very important component. And then assessing results, that's where we just keep looking back and making sure that we went on the right direction. It's like I was on a board of directors of a ship, a mercy ship that went around the Caribbean. It had a draft of only about 9.5 feet. It was incredible. It was about I think it was 138 feet long, and so we bought it in Stavanger, Norway, and the ship captain, he was an old retired gentleman. He came over the Atlantic, and we brought it into Baltimore first, and had all the fire engines. They were shooting water in the air. It was very exciting. The press came out, and I asked him because when I went to his the place where he was leading and captaining, being a captain of the ship. There was a chart across the Atlantic with X marks, a line connected to these X marks. I said, "What do those X marks mean?" He said, "Well, that's when I took the longitude, latitude to see if we're getting off course. And then there's different parts where there's X marks right next to each other." I said, "What was happening there?" He says, "That was a storm." And I had to reconnect with where we were. Because, if you get off just a fraction of a percent off course, and then you extrapolate that over 10 miles, 30 miles, or whatever it is, 100 miles, you're going to get off course. and it's imperceptible at first, but after a while, that's what happens. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we got going with the Rosetta project.
That's fantastic. I'm going to come back after the break and I'm going to ask you a hard question. And so I'm going to see if you can apply all of those things that you just said. And if you go back in the show notes, you can see all the different things that were put there. That was just timestamp that little section where he was explaining the Rosetta. But I'm going to come and I'm going to ask him a question. It's going to stump him. I don't know if he can use that method to actually solve the question that I'm about to ask him. Come back after the break. We got some Erskin music that's coming in here. We got a song today called Only Love. And I think it's so appropriate with what it is that we are dealing with in our subject matter expert today, Dr. Joel Freeman, Rosetta Stone Project, and many other projects. We'll be back in just a few moments.
Darkness, yeah, we need a light. With all of the hurting, there's no room to fight. Only love is the answer to driving out hate. Yeah, love's gonna work when we give it away. Only love is the answer to driving out hate. Love's gonna work when we give it away. Please enter for serving. Our love needs to move. Let's reach to each other. Oh, there's no time to lose. Only love is the answer to driving out hate. Yeah, love's gonna work when we give it away. Only love is the answer to driving out hate. Yeah, love's gonna work when we give it away. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Oh, let it shine. Come on. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Oh, let it shine. Love is the answer to driving out hate. Yeah, love's gonna work when we give it away. Only love is the answer to driving out hate. Yeah, love's gonna work when we give it away. Only love. Only
All right, we're back having a conversation with Dr. Joel Freeman about the Rosetta Stone Project. And if this is not great content, I don't know what is. People, what more could you want? We're about to solve all the problems in the world, and we're not even going to forget what we solved. Dr. Joel Freeman is here with us. Thank you so much for your time this morning. I don't want to take too much more of your time, but I did tease the fact that I'm going to ask you a question. And maybe I'll just do this, because I know that we're kind of, as de Tocqueville would say, we're kind of in this era where we have a national crisis. He saw elections and the danger of democracy being that there's this peaceful transference of power that happens every 4 years. And he was kind of suspicious about that, because it does kind of put us in this place where we're in a little bit of a frenzy. Who are we going to vote for? What are the candidates saying? What do they not see as that they're saying? All those different things that kind of creates this moment of national crisis for us. But I wanted to ask the question maybe like this. What would you say are some of the biggest problems that maybe both politicians, all politicians, anybody that's in government needs to be thinking about and trying to solve by way of a triage? You talked about the campfire, the bonfire, and the wildfire. What are the things that are wildfire status in our country that both politicians or all parties need to be involved in solving?
Well, we look at the economy, is one thing. We have all these different issues: housing, race relations in America, and you could make a list of all these things. I heard a story once. I've never checked it out to be it's true, but you put red ants and black ants in a bottle, and they get along just fine. But if you shake the bottle, they will fight to the death, and because they somehow feel like the other group is attacking them in some way. So my question is, who's shaking the bottle? And
Ooh, okay.
I kind of look at more of a macro view of all of this. And we have, for instance, all of media, or most of media, is controlled by six conglomerates. And I could mention, you got Fox, you have Disney, you have Warner. I could, there's six in all that
Mhm.
you name the media pretty much out there.
ABC, NBC,
Yeah, they're
yeah,
controlled by these six conglomerates. Those six
MSNBC,
conglomerates,
CNN.
yeah, those six conglomerates are the majority owner of their stock shares is BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. And they also, those three investment companies own, or firms, they own the lion's share of the military industrial complex, Northrop Grumman, Boeing, and all the rest. And there's just a list of hundreds of them. So my question is, if if we have all these different things in our country that are just the common sense folks in middle America look and just shake their head and say, what are they drinking in DC? Why would people vote in the way that they are? Let's say with open borders. I'm not against immigrants coming in, but why do we have an open border? Why are we helping Ukraine close their borders, and then opening our borders? Why
You
are
never
we
said it like that, did you?
why
Our
with all
borders are
these
open, but we are working as hard as we possibly can to keep Ukraine's borders closed and Israel's borders closed. By the way, just throw that one in there.
yes. And so common sense says there's something crazy going on, and I think money and power drive it. And so and I think there are many people that come into politics that are that have good motivation. And, I've met some of them that come into it saying, I really want to make some change. I see some problems here, and they talk common sense. But then when they get into Congress, let's say, or the Senate, now it's all about fundraising. And if you don't fundraise enough, you're not going to get a position in a committee, a high position, head of a committee. You're not going to rise in the political realm. And so it becomes this hamster in a treadmill where they're just doing all this stuff. And then I sometimes wonder if there are, compromise, people make mistakes, and then the machine holds it over them. If you don't vote this way, or those tapes will be released. I sometimes wonder
Mm,
about all that stuff. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist. You don't see any tinfoil hat in my head. I just look at the facts. I try to study things in a macro, larger way in politics. And so, for instance, I look at Baltimore City. I've lived in Baltimore City many years. We now live in Severn, near Annapolis. But I watched under one politician, Baltimore City received $1.6 billion to clean up the city, to help with education. Under another politician, they received $16 billion. So in a space of about 9.5 years, almost a decade, they received almost $18 billion. And yet, if you, me, and maybe five other people who are watching this and participating got together had that kind of mandate with that kind of money, you'd almost be able to eat off the streets of Baltimore today because of the integrity with which we would handle those funds and the mandate and how serious we would handle the mandate. And
Sure.
so I look at, people look to government to save things. I probably lean more toward libertarian. Just pick up my garbage, keep the streets clean. Let's have internal and external security, and maybe a few other things that you could probably mention that I have forgotten. But other than that, just stay the heck out of my life, and just govern in a way that frees the people up to be who they are and to fix things and work things out. Yes, there are things that government is needed for, but for the most of it, when government gets involved, building a website or providing MVA, all that kind of stuff. It just seems
A
like
database, Big Brother.
crazy. Yeah. So that's my philosophy, and I'm sticking to it. Maybe it didn't respond to your question specifically enough, but
I
I think
think you
that it affects what we're talking about in a very big way.
right, because I'm certainly not on the Erskine Music Show. My name and brand is all over this, and so I'm not worried about getting in trouble on my own show. Uh, Nor do I think you're worried about getting in trouble. I think you've well established yourself, and that's the kind of entrepreneurial spirit, as we're talking about even this subject matter, that I think is so freeing and so necessary in a republic, is that you do have people who can think freely without the specter of, or the Damocles sword hanging over their heads of, if I say this, then I'm going to get canceled by everybody that's out there. If I say this, then I'll never be able to play another show again. No, Joel, and I don't say this with any type of prideful arrogance, my talent will take care of itself. When you see Erskine Music play a show, that's the reason why Erskine Music is playing show. Now, obviously, the Lord is directing that. He's guiding that. I'm very humble about the process. I'm very thankful about that. But I don't have to do certain things that I'm watching other people feel like they have to do to manufacture what they think they want to do. And you talked about, this sort of mantra of taking learning into a response time. If you're an entrepreneur, your response time can be very quick because you've already done the research. You've already done the work. And so you can just respond and have actionable items that comes out all the time. Action, and always being forward moving. And so, no, I don't think that you danced around the question. I just think that there's not enough politicians who are actually thinking about solving solutions.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I'll just go ahead and say this, at risk of getting myself offed before and at the appropriate time. I have talked to some people about wanting somebody to run for president of the United States. Now, that's a far-fetched dream that's out there because, to your point, Joel, I see the things that are going on in our society, and I think, man, I really hope that somebody of sincere nature and genuine heart can approach these problems and then try to help people. And so, not long ago, and at least over the last few years, I've started making some inquiries into what it would require to be a part of the system, so to speak. And I ended up at a Republican fundraiser of sorts, and I'm not going to say where because it would be very obvious if you paid attention. A Republican fundraiser in which I'm having some conversations with I'm conservative, but I'm not a Republican, if that makes sense. I'm having some conversations with people, and good people, genuine people, who are basically telling me, look, your Christian convictions and the things that you care about are wonderful, but you got to work within a system of people who are sometimes not all that savory to be able to get to where it is that you want to be, or you won't get the kickback on that. And people already know this about me. I live in the city of Nashville and know a lot about what's going on in Nashville, and know people who have been tapped for prospective mayoral candidacy who have said things like this: I could move in that direction. However, by the time I actually got to that office, I'm not sure how much of me would actually be left after all the special interest groups who have helped me get to where it is that I've gotten to, get their fair share of what it is that they've invested for me to get to where I'm at. And so I would essentially just be a figurehead. And I think, Joel, in reading about democracy and being keenly interested in democracy and what that is and representative republics, I think the issue is, to your point, we have an oligarchy, or at least a type of aristocracy, that is supremely unhelpful for people, and people are beginning to realize it and getting nervous and tense about it. But I don't think they realize that the concentration of power and the concentration of economy is really in the hands of just a few people.
Yep. I can't disagree with anything you just said. I cannot disagree.
And so, therefore, being a solutionist, I think the entrepreneurial route is important because it allows you a degree of freedom to be able to move in ways and say things and do things and have action items that come from, and hopefully the audience that's watching this today can hear me genuinely say this, that comes from a heart that has been regenerated by the Lord, that does see good in the world, that does see the glory of Christ in the world, and then wants to respond actionably to that and not being intimidated by the forces that are out there. And so I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, there's I know people who've gone into politics and have come talk privately about some of the challenges of being in politics. And then I find that when you talk to them later, when they've gone through the process of whatever whatever position they entered into, and then later when they retired or voted out, they then knew what the beast was like, if I could use that term.
Mm-hmm.
And then they could do something from the outside that would have more of an impact than being inside. And so I take my hat off to people who want to dive in and get inside politics. It's a dirty, nasty game. It's blood sport, and it's in my opinion, I just am very cynical about a lot of things that go on in politics. And but to be able to see where we are and bloom where we're planted and do things that are behind the scenes that can help in different ways and be more nimble and do more things. I just, to me, staying outside of politics, for me personally, me and my house,
Mm-hmm.
I'm open to that, but I'm open to whatever God calls me to do. I want to be obedient, but because God knows we need people in entertainment, we need people in music, film, we need people in business, need people in economics, all the different things. We need pastors, because I think we in the church we sing to ourselves and preach to ourselves and write to ourselves far too much.
Mm-hmm.
But that's needed. That's needed. But I'm like C.T. Studd. He said some people would rather live within the sound of a church bell. Not me. I'd rather run a rescue shop within a yard of hell. And
Yes.
that's I want to be in the metaverse. I want to be. Those are the kind of things I want to do. Is to be where where people are, and where things are going. So that's kind of what motivates me.
Well, praise the Lord. Maybe in the spring, if you're able, I don't know what country you'll be in, where you'll be traveling, but in the spring in season 10, Lord willing, if the Lord hasn't returned, we can have you come back and talk about some of those projects that you have been working on in conjunction with and as a derivative of the things that we've talked about on this show today that are in the metaverse, that are in the world of AI, and sort of these concurrent streams that you talked about that are world shaping phenomenon that we're experiencing. Maybe talk about how you've approached some of those things, because you and I, sort of privately have exchanged some things, and I'm really excited about what it is that you're doing in that area. But I think that it'll help people to recognize that, learning and knowledge and all these different things, coupled with action, coupled with understanding the times that you live in, makes those action points even more salient and pointed and appropriate. And so,
And I think what's important is, like any business, any organization comes up with a set of mission, vision, core values, code of conduct.
right.
And I think that we as individuals need to do that. And many years ago, I developed a mission, vision, core values, code of conduct. And when I'm stuck in an airport somewhere or some other, in the morning having time with the Lord, I'll just pull that out on my phone and I'll look over. And just like that ship captain from Stavanger, Norway, I'll check the X marks to see if I'm getting off track. And so I think
So good.
when a person goes into education, they go into AI, they go into all these different aspects, government, whatever it might be, is to periodically check the longitudinal, latitudinal points and just see, what is truly happening. Am I giving something up here? Am I, and I taking chunks out of my integrity? And I refuse to allow that to happen. And so I'm fierce about that kind of stuff.
I love that
And
you said that with some bass in your voice, and I love that. I refuse to let myself veer off course. And you said that you're approaching 70 or so,
I just turned 70 in 2 months ago.
and this man wants to finish strong. Like we should all want to finish strong. A long legacy and a long history of God's blessing upon his life, his learning, his pursuits. And he says, with bass in his voice, I'm gonna check true north and make sure that I finish strong. However long that is, we gonna
Yes.
keep going until we get to the
You
celestial
remember
city.
Warren
Love it.
Wiersbe? Remember Warren Wiersbe?
Yes,
The B series.
the B series. Yeah.
He became a very dear friend, and he had no digital stuff. I just call him up on his home phone if he was there, and as he got older, he was there a lot. And so we would just talk. And I remember one time, late just before he passed away, he just said, I hope I don't screw up. I hope I finish well. And I'm thinking, here's a guy who was a pastor of the Moody Church. You can list the resume obituary type stuff about him, and he is still tentative about finishing strong, even just
Mhm.
a year or so before he passed away. And that
Praise
that
the Lord.
that was very sobering to me, actually, and very instructive to me. Just that one little exchange I had with Warren Wiersbe.
Wow. Tending the vine, tending the vine. Well, I don't think we can do any better than this. It's been an incredible interview. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to our future conversations.
Thank you very much.
All
Appreciate
right.
you or all that you
God
do.
bless.
God bless.
Doctor, and doctor. Joel Freeman was here today, and the show knows it because the internet is still shaking as a result of all the things that we were talking about today. You can't get any better than that, folks. We are over time today. But again, it's the Erskin Music Show, so I can be over time. Hey, tomorrow we've got a taped episode of one of the best interviews. I think we just had one of the best interviews. But anyway, we'll do back-to-back interviews. And then we're coming back next week with a pre-recorded episode. Then I'm going overseas. And so it's like fireworks is about to ensue for the Erskin Music Show. Continual fire every day. Every day, more and more fireworks, because I'm going to put the best of the guest shows, some of the best shows together. And we may put a little, I'm putting together a major announcement. If I can announce it on this show, that would be great. I may have to wait till I come back to announce it. But there's a major thing that's about to happen, another earth-shaking, groundbreaking thing that's about to happen that I can either release on this show while I'm overseas, or when I come back from overseas, I'll be able to say it on this show. But you will not want to miss the Erskin Music shows coming up the next week. It'll be the best of the best. All right. Lola and Jazz wanted to say what's up to you guys, and then we're out.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching the Erskin Music Show. Stay